1961 Bajaur Campaign, edit. Main article, Bajaur Campaign. In late 1960, regular and irregular Afghan forces invaded the Bajaur area of northwest frontier province in an attempt to annex the region. In response, PAF F-86s were sent in order to support the Pakistani forces and local Pakistani Pashtun tribesmen who were fighting the Afghan infiltrators. The Sabres also executed bombing runs on Royal Afghan Army positions in Kuna which were attacking Frontier Corps border posts. Although the Royal Afghan Air Force had 7 MiG-17 squadrons and another MiG-21 squadron being operationalized, no known dogfight has been recorded between the two sides. Indo-Pakistani War of 1965, edit. Main article, Indo-Pakistani Air War of 1965. The Sabre was no longer a world-class fighter, due to availability of supersonic jets. However, various sources state the F-86 gave the PAF a technological advantage in 1965. 1. Air-to-air combat. In the air-to-air combat of the Indo-Pakistani War of 1965, the PAF Sabres claimed to have shot down 15 Indian Air Force (IAF) aircraft, comprising 9 Hunters, 4 Vampires, and 2 Gnats. India, however, admitted a loss of 14 combat aircraft to the PAF's F-86s. The F-86s of the PAF had the advantage of being armed with AIM-9B/GA-8 Sidewinder missiles, whereas none of its Indian adversaries had this capability. Despite this, the Indian Air Force claimed that 7 F-86 Sabres were shot down by Folland Gnats and 6 F-86 Sabres were shot down by Hawker Hunters. 1. Ground attack. The F-86F remained a potent aircraft for use against ground targets. On the morning of the 6th of September, 1965, 6 F-86s of No. 19 Squadron struck advancing columns of the Indian Army using 5 in 127mm rockets along with their 6.50 in 12.7mm M3 Browning machine guns. On the same day, 8 F-86 fighters of the same squadron executed airstrikes on the IAF Pathankot. In East Pakistan, F-86s from the No. 14 Squadron struck the Indian air bases of Kalekunda, Bagdogra, Barrackpore and Agartala, which resulted in the destruction of more than 20 Indian aircraft. The airstrikes on Kalekunda in particular were highly successful, after which the No. 14 Squadron was nicknamed Tail Choppers. In total, Pakistani B-57 Canberras and F-86s destroyed around 39 Indian warplanes on the ground at various IAF air bases. However, India claims of losing 22 aircraft on the ground. 1971 Civil Conflict and Subsequent Indo-Pakistani War, edit. 1. Air-to-air combat. The CL-13B Mk.6 Sabres, known as the F-86E in PAF, were the mainstay of the PAF's day fighter operations during the 1971 war, and had the challenge of dealing with the threat from IAF Folland Gnats, Hawker Hunters, Sukhoi Su-7s and MiG-21s. At the beginning of the war, PAF had 8 squadrons of F-86 Sabres. Along with the newer fighter types such as the Mirage 3 and the Shenyang F-6, the Sabres were tasked with the majority of operations during the war. In East Pakistan, PAF's only Tail Choppers squadron was equipped with 16 F-86s, out of which 4 were modified to fire AIM-9/GA-8 missiles. In the Battle of Boira, Indian Folland Gnats of 22 Squadron IAF shot down 2 F-86s and severely damaged 1 F-86E. PAF F-86s performed well, with Pakistani claims of downing 31 Indian aircraft in air-to-air combat. These included 17 Hawker Hunters, 8 Sukhoi Su-7 fitters, 1 MiG-21, and 3 Nats while losing 7 F-86s. The most interesting of these was a battle between 2 Sabres and 4 MiG-21s. 1 MiG was shot down, without any Sabres lost. This was achieved due to the greater low-speed performance of the Sabre in comparison to the delta-winged MiG-21. India, however, claims to have shot down 11 PAF Sabres for the loss of 11 combat aircraft to the PAF F-86s. The IAF numerical superiority overwhelmed the sole East Pakistan Sabres squadron, and other military aircraft, which were either shot down, or grounded by Pakistani fratricide as they could not hold out, enabling complete air superiority for the IAF. 1 Ground attack. In East Pakistan, the F-86s of the tail choppers took active part in several CAS and COIN missions against Mukti Bahini militants and irregular Indian forces. On the 15th of April, 1971, a formation of 4 Sabres led by Flight Lieutenant Abbas Kotak strafed and rocketed many rebel strongholds at Behrab Bazaar to support the Pakistan Army's efforts in recapturing food stocks and silos from the Mukti Bahini militants. On the 26th of April, 1971, Flight Lieutenant Abbas led another Sabre formation at Pachulik Hali where surviving rebels had regrouped after facing a defeat at Barisal by the hands of the army. The Sabres struck several rebel strongpoints to soften up resistance, after which SSG units were inserted via Mi-8s to clear out the area. On the Western Front, F-86s and F-86Fs from various PAF squadrons played a vital role in backing the Pakistan Army's counter-attacks at several sectors with air support. At Sheikhaga and Marala sectors, PAF F-86F /S from the number 17, number 18 and 26 squadrons alongside Shenyang F-6s took part in air support missions backing Pakistan's I Strike Corps counter-attacks against the Indian Army's I Corps. Although ill-equipped for anti-tank roles, the Sabres were modified to carry general-purpose bombs in an effort to provide as much effective air support as possible. In the Battle of Chain, F-86Fs from the number 26 Squadron Black Spiders and F-86s from the number 18 Squadron supported Iftikhar Janjua's forces in capturing Chum, flying 146 air support sorties. At one point, the Indian Army suffered a major blow at Ekna when Sabres from the number 18 Squadron destroyed their ammunition dumps. At Sulamanki, F-86s of the number 17 Squadron Tigers flew 55 CAS sorties in support of the 4-Corps offensive, in which they claimed 6 Indian tanks and a number of military vehicles destroyed. At Dar, F-86E and Fs belonging to the number 19 Squadron struck Indian Army positions during their close air support missions. In total, they destroyed 8 Indian tanks and several military vehicles while also damaging 2 military trains. Guinea-Bissau War of Independence, edit. In 1958, the Força Aérea Portuguesa, FAP, received 50 F-86Fs from ex-USAF stocks. A few former Norwegian Air Force F-86Fs were also purchased as spares in 1968-69. The FAP deployed some of its F-86F Sabres to Portuguese Guinea in 1961, being based at AB-2 Bisalunca Air Base, Bisal. These aircraft formed Detachment 52, initially equipped with 8 F-86Fs, serials 5307, 5314, 5322, 5326, 5354, 5356, 5361, and 5362, from the Esquadra 51, based at the BA-5 Monterreal Air Base. These aircraft were used in the Guinea-Bissau War of Independence, in ground attack and close support operations against the insurgent forces. In August 1962, 5314 overshot the runway during an emergency landing with bombs still attached on underwing hardpoints and burned out. F-86 F5322 was shot down by enemy ground fire on the 31st of May 1963. The pilot ejected safely and was recovered. Several other aircraft suffered combat damage but were repaired. In 1964, 16 F-86F spaced at Salonca returned to mainland Portugal due to U.S. pressure. They had flown 577 combat sorties, of which 430 were ground attack and close air support missions. Philippine Air Force, edit. The Philippine Air Force, PAF, first received the Sabres in the form of F-86Fs in 1957, replacing the North American P-51 Mustang as their primary interceptor. F-86s first operated from Besa Air Base, known infamously as the Nest of Vipers, where the 5th Fighter Wing of the PAF was based. Later on, in 1960, the PAF acquired the F-86D as their first all-weather interceptor. The most notable use of the F-86 Sabres was in the Blue Diamonds aerobatic display team, which operated 8 Sabres until the arrival of the newer, supersonic Northrop F-5. The F-86s were subsequently phased out of service in the 1970s as the Northrop F-5 Freedom Fighter and bout F-8 Crusaders became the primary fighters and interceptors of the PAF. Antonio Bautista was a Blue Diamonds pilot and a decorated officer. He was killed on the 11th of January, 1974 during a combat sortie against rebels in the south of the country. Soviet Sabre, edit. During the Korean War, the Soviet search for an intact US F-86 Sabre for evaluation and study purposes was largely frustrated due to the US military's policy of destroying disabled or abandoned weapons and equipment, with USAF pilots destroying most of their downed Sabres by strafing or bombing. One F-86 was downed in a tidal area, and subsequently submerged, preventing its destruction. The aircraft was ferried to Moscow and a new OKB, Soviet Experimental Design Bureau, was established to study the F-86, which later became part of the Sukhoi OKB. At least one F-86 was sent to the Soviet Union. The Russians, SIG, admitted, and other planes and prizes such as USG suits and radar gun sights also went. The Soviets studied and copied the optical gun sight and radar from the captured aircraft to produce the USP-4N gun sight and SRC-3 radar. Installed in the MiG-17, the gun sight system was later used against American fighters in the Vietnam War. The F-86 studies also contributed to the development of aircraft aluminum alloys such as V95. Feather Duster, edit. The old but nimble MiG-17 had become such a serious threat against the Republic F-105 Thunderchief over North Vietnam that the USAF created Project Feather Duster to test which tactics supersonic American fighters could use against fighters such as the MiG-17. An F-86H units proved to be an ideal stand-in for the Soviet jets. One pilot remarked, "In any envelope except nose down and full throttle, either the F-100 or F-105 was inferior to the F-86H in a dogfight." Variants, edit. North American F-86, edit. XF-86. 3 prototypes, originally designated XP-86, North American model now 140. YF-86A. This was the first prototype fitted with a General Electric J47 turbojet engine. F-86A. 554 built, North American model now 151, F-86A 1 block and first order of a 5 block, and now 161, second F-86A 5 block. DF-86A. A few F-86 conversions as drone directors. Are F-86 11 F-86 conversions with 3 cameras for reconnaissance. F-86B 188 ordered as upgraded A model with wider fuselage and larger tires but delivered as F-86A5, North American model now 152. F-86C original designation for the YF-93A, 2 built, 48317 and 48318, order for 118 cancelled, North American model now 157. YF-95A prototype all-weather interceptor, 2 built, designation changed to YF-86D, North American model now 164. F-86D/L. Main article, North American F-86D Sabre. Production transonic all-weather search radar-equipped interceptor originally designated F-95A, 2506 built. The F-86D had only 25% commonality with other Sabre variants, with a larger fuselage, larger afterburning engine, and a distinctive nose radome. Sole armament was Mk4 unguided rockets instead of machine guns. F-86LS were upgraded F-86DS. F-86E improved flight control system and an all-flying tail. This system changed to a full power-operated control with an artificial feel built into the aircraft's controls to give the pilot forces on the stick that were still conventional, but light enough for superior combat control. It improved high-speed maneuverability, 456 built, North American model now 170, F-86E1 and E5 blocks, now 172, essentially the F-86F airframe with the F-86E engine, F-86E10 and E15 blocks, 60 of these built by Canadair for USAF, F-86E6. F-86E-M. Designation for XIF Sabres diverted to other NATO air forces. QF-86E. Designation for surplus of Sabre MKVs modified to target drones. F-86F. Uprated engine and larger 6.3 wing without leading edge slats, 2239 built, North American model now 172, F-86F1 through F-15 blocks, now 176, F-86F20 and 25 blocks, now 191, F-86F30 and -35 blocks, now 193, F-86F26 block, now 202, F-86F35 block, now 227, first 2 orders of F-86F40 blocks comprising 280 aircraft that reverted to leading-edge wing slats of an improved design, now 231, 70 in third F-40 block order, now 238, 110 in fourth F-40 block order, and now 256, 120 in final F-40 block order. 300 additional aircraft in this series assembled by Mitsubishi in Japan for Japanese Air Self-Defense Force. Sabre Fs had much improved high-speed agility, coupled with a high landing speed of over 145 miles per hour, 233 kilometers per hour. The F-35 block had provisions for a new operational role, the tactical nuclear attack using newer, smaller, and lighter nuclear weapons, second-generation nuclear ordnance. The F-40 had a new slatted wing with a slightly higher span, resulting in a slight decrease in speed, but also much better agility at both high and low speeds and a reduced landing speed of 124 miles per hour, 200 kilometers per hour. The USAF upgraded many previous F versions to the F-40 standard. 1E and 2Fs were modified for improved performance via rocket boost. F-86F, R. F-86F 30, 52 to 4608, had a rocket dyno 2-3 with 3,0006,000 lbf, 13,00027,000 n, thrust at 35,000 feet, 11,000 m, giving a top speed of Mach 1.22 at 60,000 feet, 18,000 m. F-86F2. Designation for 10 aircraft modified to carry the M39 cannon in place of the M3.50 caliber machine gun 6-pack. 4 F-86E-10S, serial numbers 51 to 2803, 2819, 2826 and 2836, and 6 F-86F1S, serial numbers 51 to 2855, 2861, 2867, 2868, 2884 and 2900, were production line aircraft modified in October 1952 with enlarged and strengthened gun bays, then flight tested at Edwards Air Force Base and the Air Proving Ground at Eglin Air Force Base in November. 8 were shipped to Japan in December and 7 forward deployed to Kimpo Airfield as Project Gunval for a 16-week combat field trial in early 1953. 2 were lost to engine compressor stalls after ingesting excessive propellant gases from the cannons. F-86F. About 50 former Japan Self-Defense Forces, JASDF, F-86F aircraft converted to drones for use as targets by the U.S. Navy. F-86F. Some F-86F-30s converted with 3 cameras for reconnaissance, also 18 Japan Self-Defense Forces, JASDF, aircraft similarly converted. F-86F. 2 F-86F converted to 2-seat training configuration with lengthened fuselage and slatted wings under North American model NA 204. F-86H. Extensively redesigned fighter bomber model with deeper fuselage, uprated engine, longer wings and power-boosted tailplane, 2 built as North American model NA 187. F-86H. Production model, 473 built, with low-altitude bombing system, labs, and provision for nuclear weapon, North American model NA 187, F-86H1 and H5 blocks, and NA 203, F-86H10 block. F-86H. Target conversion of 29 aircraft for use at United States Naval Weapons Center. F-86J. Single F-86 of 5 NA, 49 to 1069, flown with Orindar turbojet under North American model NA 167. Same designation reserved for A models flown with the Canadian engines but project not proceeded with. F-86K. Main article, North American F-86D Sabre. F-86L. Main article, North American F-86D Sabre. B.KH.17. Thai, Royal Thai Air Force designation for the F-86F. North American FJ Fury, edit. C. North American FJ2 /3 Fury for production figures of U.S. Navy versions. CAC Sabre, Australia, edit. Main article, CAC Sabre. 2 types based on the US F-86F were built under license by the Commonwealth Aircraft Corporation, CAC, in Australia, for the Royal Australian Air Force as the CA-26, 1 prototype, and CA-27, production variant. The RAF operated the CA-27 from 1956 to 1971. The The CAC Sabres included a 60% fuselage redesign to accommodate the Rolls-Royce Avon Mk26 engine, which had roughly 50% more thrust than the J-47, as well as 30mm Aden cannon and AIM-9 Sidewinder missiles. As a consequence of its power plant, the Australian-built Sabres are commonly referred to as the Avon Sabre. CAC manufactured 112 of these aircraft. X-RAF Avon Sabres were operated by the Royal Malaysian Air Force, TADM, between 1969 and 1972. From 1973 to 1975, 23 Avon Sabres were donated to the Indonesian Air Force, TNI. 5 of these were ex-Malaysian aircraft. CA-27 Marks 1 Mk30, 21 built, wing slats, Avon 20 engine. 2 Mk31, 21 built, 6-3 wing, Avon 20 engine. 3 Mk32, 69 built, 4 wing pylons, F-86F fuel capacity, Avon 26 engine. Canadair Sabre, edit. Main article, Canadair Sabre. The F-86 was also manufactured by Canadair in Canada as the CL-13 Sabre to replace its de Havilland Vampires, with the following production models. Sabre Mk1. 1 built, prototype F-86 Sabre Mk2. 350 built, F-86E type, 60 to USAF, 3 to IAF, 287 to ACAF. Sabre Mk3. 1 built in Canada, testbed for the Orindar jet engine. Sabre Mk4. 438 built, production Mk3, 10 to ACAF, 428 to IAF as Sabre F4. Sabre Mk5. 370 built, F-86F type with Orindar engine, 295 to ACAF, 75 to Luftwaffe. Sabre Mk6. 655 built, 390 to ACAF, 225 to Luftwaffe, 6 to Colombia and 34 to South Africa. Production summary, edit. This section does not cite any sources. Please help improve this section by adding citations to reliable sources. Unsourced material may be challenged and removed. August 2009, learn how and when to remove this message. 1 NA built a total of 6,297 F-86s and 1,115 FJs. 2 Canadair built 1,815. 3 Australian CAC built 112. 4 Fiat built 221, and 5 Mitsubishi built 300. 6 for a total Sabre /Fury production of 9,860. Production costs, edit. F-86A, F-86D, F-86E, F-86F, F-86H, F-86K, F-86L. Program R&D cost 4,707,802. Airframe 101,528, 191,313, 145,326, 140,082, 316,360, 334,633. Engine 52,971, 75,036, 39,990, 44,664, 214,612, 71,474. Electronics 7,576, 7,058, 6,358, 5,649, 6,831, 10,354. Armament 16,333, 69,986, 23,645, 17,669, 27,573, 20,135. Ordnance 419, 4,138, 3,047, 17,100.